Today I'm going to walk you through the entire process for setting up a user, a ProTracker user. There's some setup things that need to take place before you ever assign that user to a project. This top row, these blue boxes, these are setup processes, which means you typically only do it one time. You don't do it for every job or every person. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a role, and then we're going to set permissions for that role, things that you can and cannot do based on that role. And then we're going to assign that role to a user. So either the user is already set up and we want to assign that role to them, or we're going to create a new user. Perhaps we just hired someone to be a superintendent. So we're going to set him up in ProTracker. We're going to assign him a role, and with that role comes the permissions for that role, and then we're going to assign him to a job. Permissions just means here's what you can see. As a user, as a ProTracker user, this is what you can see and this is what you can do. That's all it means. So they're rights. Their permissions are rights. So let's get into it. So this is ProTracker. This is my sandbox. It's a test site. I'm going to go to, let me start from the home screen. Here's the home screen. And we're going to go, because we're talking about users. We're not talking about jobs at this point or employees. We're talking about users. So let's go to a user, the user menu. There's the dashboard. Here's the setup. We're talking about creating a role. So let's go here, setup, and go to user roles. And this is the pop-up, user roles. Make sure you're there. And here's what we have. We have the role name, and we have a role category. Role category, there's only three main categories, and I'll show you how we identify that. This is the edit button, and you can see under role category, there's three main categories. There's manager, supervisor, and administrator. So we're going to assign all these roles to these categories. The reason we do it this way is because you have the ability to set up as many roles as you need. So there could be a lot of roles in here. So the way we manage it is by adding a category. And if you click on this top column, it sorts it by those categories. This is the email distribution list. There are emails that are automatically generated and sent throughout ProTracker, and this is the type of email that is sent. This is related to payroll, injury, notifying a PM of a review, a status report, a look ahead, and something from Tech Ops and a tool report. So these are the automatic emails that are generated by ProTracker. And if you click this box, like for the system administrator, this person is going to receive all of these emails based on the job. And I'll show you that in a minute. Based on the job, this person's going to receive all of those emails. That could be a problem. If, let's say, a payroll administrator is receiving email notifications on tool reports, that might be a problem that you don't want to deal with. But so we're going to create the role. You click this button, add a role, and you can create whatever role you want, and then you assign it to that category, and then you hit submit. Let's just ignore this one for now. I'll tell you about that one in a minute. So that's the role. That's that part right there. We quickly and easily created a role. So now what we want to do is set permissions for the role, right? So what we'll do is we'll go back to user, set up permissions. Now we're about to set permissions for a specific role, so you have to select the role. So let's select, for this example, a job foreman, and it's going to show you all that this job foreman can do. Now these are broken into these menus. If you notice, these menus fall here, okay? Time, material, tools, production, employees, jobs, and users, and the system admin. So within these menus is submenus. These are all submenus, right? Okay. Well, if you open this up, you'll see there are the submenus. There they are. So in this case, if I go to the time tracker, if I go to the payroll admin dashboard, if it's checked to show it to me, then I can see it. If I'm the superintendent, I can see it. But if the edit button is not clicked, I can't do anything. I can only see it. Okay, so we're looking at the job foreman. We're looking at the time tracker board. So right now, whoever is assigned as the job foreman. Now remember, here's where we assign these things. We've got a role we're setting permissions for the role, and then we're going to assign it to a person, right? So whoever is assigned as a job foreman can do all these things. So they can view all these boards, they can edit these boards. In this case, there's a manual punch that they can do. Some people don't want their superintendents to be able to do a manual punch, so you would uncheck that. And now everyone who has that role could not do a manual punch. There's an hours override. Most superintendent foremen can override hours in Time Tracker, but some people don't want them to have that permission. So we've made it a variable. So these, from the right of edit, these are all specific variables, okay, that you may or may not want your person to do. Submit to payroll. Some companies, branches, don't want their superintendents to submit directly to the payroll administrator. They want them to notify the PM. So what these are buttons. All of these are buttons within these menus. So if this button is unchecked, the Submit to Payroll button will not show up in Time Tracker for that role. If the Notify PM box is checked, the Notify PM button will display in Time Tracker for that role. So you would have either one or both of these on. You wouldn't undo each one of them, because now they can't submit it to anybody. They're stuck. So in this case, we're going to say we want this foreman, the job foreman, to notify the PM and let the PM send to payroll. When it comes to system administrator, you have to be careful, because this controls the whole ProTracker for that branch. What I would do, this would, if any of these boxes are checked, just check this twice and it unchecks them all. And then you can submit. So those changes are saved. Now let's take a look at the project manager. Now you'll notice that the Submit to Payroll box is checked for him. He or she can send directly to the payroll administrator. Now, because both of these boxes are checked, this person will see both of those buttons. Doesn't mean they have to click both of them, but they will see them. If you don't want the project manager to even see this one, you just turn it off. What would happen is, if the project manager clicked the Notify PM button, he's just going to send an email to himself saying, these records are ready for your review. So it's not a big deal. So that's how that works. So we've created a role, we set the permission. Now let's make sure that we have a user, and we're going to assign that role to the user. So here we go. So let's say we go to the user dashboard. This is where all your users are located. And maybe it's a new user and you want to create a new user. You just click that right there, fill this out, and then while you're filling this out, it's going to say select a role. And there's all the roles that you've created. Or if it's an existing user, you click the pencil, which is the edit icon, or the pencil icon, which is the user details edit. And I can go in here and I can change this person's role to a job foreman, and then hit save. And now you'll note, when you refresh the screen, you'll notice that the role has changed to job foreman. And with that, this person now has all the permissions of the job foreman. That's how you assign the permissions, the role with the permissions, to a person. Now let's assign that person to a job. It's the same place. You can look at it here. There's two places you can get to it. But from here, you can click the pencil and you see assign jobs. This is where you go in. These are all the jobs that are available at your branch. This is a test site, so you're only seeing one. So you can assign this person to this job. And when you do, you're giving him, with his role and all the permissions that go with his role, access to that job. You can also go to Jobs dashboard and open up a specific job, and you see a user list. From here, you can assign these people to the job. From the job, you can, all those users that you set up along with their permissions, their role permissions, you can assign them to the job. Once you're here, remember we set up default email distribution from the user. So this guy here is a job foreman, and it will default to whatever we set up. Apparently we didn't set up anything, but okay, those three things will default. So now I can customize it for this person. So if I want this person to receive the payroll emails, the injury emails, and maybe a status report, a look ahead, and anything from the tech app, and a tool report. I want this person, now I'm not looking at role, I'm just looking at the person. I want them to receive all of these emails, and I can update it. So we created the role, we assigned permissions to the role, we assigned that role to a person, and then we assigned that person to a job. Hopefully that makes sense. I think once you do it a few times, it will be second nature.